Hi, my name's Odubajo and I'm a management consultant at KPMG. Yeah, so primary school was great. I had great teachers who can actually teach. I felt included in my primary school. I was really energetic and popular, outgoing, and that allowed me to make friends quite quickly. And I think I had a good time. I was into sports, I was into music. I used to play drums, trumpet. Used to be playing in football. Was captain, and so that brought a lot of friendships and a lot of, I guess, encouragement and friendships from teachers as well as friends. I was still trying to discover what I wanted to do. I was good at football. I was like, let me play some football. I actually started off in the bottom sets for most of my subjects because they didn't actually, I guess, in terms of my ability, they must have just thought, okay, let me just put him in bottom set and see how he works out. But that was probably unfair. But at the time, I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, I'm in a school, so let's calm. But I had to work my way up, and I had a teacher called Miss Seagull, and she knew that I shouldn't have been in the bottom set for science and math and English. And she was the person who was advocating for me to kind of like, you can do this. Like, we know that you're smart, so you pass these exams, and then you can get to the top set. And eventually, within a year or so, I was able to get to the top set. So she also saw some sort of like, I guess, a potential in me that I didn't see at the time. But she knew maybe from the way that I spoke, from my interaction, and I guess from just my attitude as well when I was young, that I didn't belong in the bottom set. And she helped me with my just belief in terms of getting to the next level of those sets. And I rose up, I guess. So. Very pivotal moment in my life, I would say, because I met a tutor called Mr. Mullins, and he transformed my whole life in the sense that I went from St. George's, which is like a primary school, sorry, St. George's, which is a secondary school, to a grammar school, which was a girls' grammar school in Kent. And I chose the girls' grammar school, the sixth form, because it was open to boys and girls. But at the time, because it was better than the boys' grammar school, and everybody it was quite a consensus that, the girls' grammar school was better. And I studied three subjects: maths, economics, and English. But my maths was a bit weak at the time, and I knew that. So I got a tutor, and that tutor really shaped my whole opinion about how to study, how to pass exams, taught me a bit about life, taught me a bit about motivation and like careers. And he really took me under his wing, and he gave me special treatment in the sense of, like, he knew once again this potential, which I probably didn't see at the time, but he knew that like I had the ability to do well. And he was able to just tell me about like exam techniques and how to like navigate like the political world or corporate world, etc. So I guess it was more than a tutor, but yeah, I was really fortunate enough to have him coaching me, and I was able to get good grades because of him. No, I don't think it's the environment. I think it was more ability, because when I moved to Kent, and I went to sixth form, it was higher ability. I was surrounded by people who were of higher ability, and therefore there was a mindset shift where I wasn't the top set anymore. And I had to think differently, and there were different types of conversations, and there was an adjustment that I had to make. And having a tutor, it's allowed me to, at least, I guess, be keeping up with the class, and yeah, it was really helpful. Basically, no. I wanted to become an inventor when I was young. I was like, yeah, I want to change the world. I want to create some sort of invention and that will make people's lives better. Then I became more realistic, and then I said, okay, let me do something more realistic. And I said, let me become an architect. So I did some work experience in an architecture firm, realized it was a 7-year degree. I didn't want to do that. And the work experience was boring. So I moved from there to thinking about engineering. And I was looking at civil engineering at the time. And then I also thought after a phase of time, it was a bit boring. Then I landed on economics, and that's what I did in my A-levels, and that felt more comfortable. It was about the economy, of course, and how the economy works. And I thought that would be useful in whatever direction I took, because at the time I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But studying economics gave me a broad range of options if I left the university with an economics degree. So. University was interesting because it was the first time I was living independently, away from home. So I had to navigate, obviously making my own food, like commuting to university, because I didn't live too far off from the campus, and of course, once again, making new friends completely. I didn't know anybody where I went. So the beginning was fine. I was kind of like heads down, doing my work, and I actually changed my degree. I was going to do accounting and economics, and then I changed to financial economics. First year, as always, Freshers Week, do that, fun. Then you start. I think it was the Freshers Week that you're introduced to your core friends, in the sense that you join a African Caribbean network or in a certain societies, and that's when you start to form friendships. And I carry those friendships throughout the years, actually. Yeah, definitely. I think everybody knows they don't do enough. I think they're behind the time. I think, the times have changed, but schools haven't. There's a couple of things I would suggest, whether it's, money management courses, modules, classes, even the way classes are being taught. You face the front of the class, you sit down, the board, like the board in front, and one teacher, and then everybody's just like sitting in their desk. And even that whole setup and that whole environment needs to change, whether it's studying online, whether it's being able to study from home, given the option and the availability for different types of individuals who study different. Not everybody studies best in class. And nowadays, people start to learn more about what their learning types is, whether it's best outside of class or in class, and allow those individuals to progress quicker. And of course, whether it's in terms of modules, I would say money management, politics. Politics, I mean corporate politics, as in how to manage your workplace, soft skills, that sort of emphasis on learning. And of course, whether it's life skills, whether it's property management, mortgages, credit cards, loans, etc., that whole financial management is completely missed in school. My passion is about social mobility. I want to provide access to opportunities for young people, and without education, like anywhere in the world, it's difficult to get to where you want to go. Of course, there's individuals who make it without education. But for most people, I would say education is the starting block. And I think without education, you would find it really tough if you're just an average person. If you're born into wealth, then you actually have an option not to go through education, and you can use your family connections. But most of us who are either average or from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, or just, I guess, who don't want to use their family connections, etc., education is vital to just broadening your knowledge, your friendships, and it provides you with, I guess, more options rather than just saying, "Oh, I'm just going to continue with my family business," and then you're kind of boxed in. That's new to me. Probably, if I was to I don't have no stats, unfortunately, so normally I would back it up with quotes and stuff, but my initial thoughts would be they're more open to different routes of education, and it doesn't have to be those formal routes. parents nowadays, I guess the younger generation, are now given the option to their kids to say, you don't have to go down the traditional route of going to university, and there's apprenticeships, there's internships, placements, and you can actually be a YouTube star and actually make money from that and have a career from that. So there's unconventional routes, and that's becoming more popular, and more the awareness as well is growing. So I would say, if it is for the Black community that they're less and less inclined to go to university, the fees is also an issue, so they're probably deterred by that. But I would say it might be an entrepreneurial kind of, I guess, way of just deciding, I don't want to just do the typical thing and go down a different route. Yeah, it's still a problem. So why do I think it is a problem? Underrepresentation, I think, is always a problem wherever you go, anywhere in the world, wherever corporate building, whatever, I guess society. It's a thing that we're already a small community, so we're always going to be underrepresented. There's nowhere, or apart from maybe football and sports and entertainment, but outside those fields, it's very difficult to see black individuals as a dominant member in a certain community. So I think we're already disadvantaged purely because of the population, if it's in the UK, etc., if that's what we're talking about. But it's a problem in university because their teachers also don't look like them, so it's difficult for them to actually feel like they belong to their university, feel like they're part of a community. They then don't feel like our teachers get us, our tutors understand us, and they then feel disconnected with the uni experience. And personally, for me, I didn't have not one black tutor ever. Actually, I might have one black teacher. That was in my secondary school, but at university, I didn't see any black professionals. So that didn't demotivate me, but I can understand it can for some. But yeah. I would say to follow your dreams. Follow your dreams. At 16 is important because you have the option to either go to university or not go to university and take a different route. And if you're lucky enough to know what you want at that age, I didn't, then go for it then. In my particular case, because I didn't know what I wanted, I just took the university route. And it worked out okay with me because I was playing semi-professional football at the time. So I was doing that for 2 years. So I could have become a footballer. But that wasn't my dream. And I didn't know it then, but look, I guess connecting the dots backwards, it was around helping young people, social mobility, helping the community. And I wanted to become a business leader. I definitely knew that because I knew there wasn't enough role models, especially black role models, in the financial industry, let alone the business sector. And I wanted to not just take the typical, become a footballer and then life is good, but let me actually do something that's different, that's, I guess, against the norms. And I wanted to kind of break through the finance industry and hopefully become a role model. Believe. I think that's a key word for me. Believe, because at 21, you're then not spoon-fed for the rest of your life because the whole educational system before 21, you've been told what to do. You go to college, you go to university, you get that degree. Like people, there's already a map of the next 10 years of your life when you're young of what you need to do. So you don't really need to think. After 21, nobody's telling you what to do. You go get your own job. You go get your own house. You go get even your girlfriend, whatever it is. Like you start doing things yourself and you then become responsible for your own actions. And at 21, I then started working full time for a company. And I wish I was told about just believing in my abilities and myself, because when you go into the working force and like the whole, whether it's corporate or not, you just mix with different types of people. Like, this is not even university like type of people. It's like older generations, younger generations, and you're not actually trained for that. You're not actually told, how do you communicate? How do people perceive you, etc. And at 21, I didn't have that awareness, and I wish somebody told me, certain things that would have helped me navigate the corporate world, especially politics, soft skills, etc. Yeah, so it's been an uphill battle, I would say. I'll cut the long story short and give you just highlights. So I left throughout university, I did work experience in Asia, whether it's Shanghai for a couple of months, and then whether it's America, and then in Edinburgh, Royal Bank of Scotland. And then I was just trying to figure out, where do I fit in this business world? I finally settled on finance, and then following university, I then did that internship in Shanghai, came back, got a job in the financial ombudsman for a year and a half as an adjudicator. And I was just basically working as a financial complaints analyst. After that, I then got a job at KPMG in the forensic department, where we looked at fraud, anti-money laundering, bribery, corruption, etc. And that I was good at it, but I wasn't great. And I knew it wasn't something I was going to do long term. And I managed to then moved away from the whole fraud and money laundering and that sort of dispute advisory into customer experience. And that's what I do now. So I actually work in management consulting. I'm also studying the ACA, which is an accounting qualification, because I have to finish that off too. So yeah, as you can see, it's navigation. It's trying to figure out, what am I good at? I listen to what people tell me about what they think my skills are, and I take that on board, and I try to make changes every year to align myself to my skill set. It's actually understanding what you're good at. Like, 'cause people will tell you one thing, and you might believe another. And I was lucky enough to have great mentors who told me, Ollie, you're good at public speaking, or Ollie, you're great at motivating, you're great at inspiring people. So that allowed me to, I guess, to hone in on what is my strength. And they also was able to tell me what are my weaknesses, and I guess work on them, but not focus on them. And when I joined the corporate world, whether it's KPMG or financial ombudsman, at the beginning, I felt like I was struggling because I didn't really have an identity. I was like one of few black people in my department. I had, as most people do, imposter syndrome. I felt like I was my head above water every day, trying to fight, like trying to survive it, essentially. And I had one fortunate encounter which kind of changed my whole life, basically. What they can do, there's a couple of things, and I don't think it's limited just to black people. So it correlates to other minorities. But if we're speaking about black people, I would say mentoring is a great start. You've got to understand what people go through by spending time with them, one-to-one time. And that's really important. So you put yourself in those people's shoes, and then you're able to have a certain level of empathy. I don't think a lot of people have empathy, especially in the finance world. And you can only develop that by spending time with people who don't look like you. So for, I guess, non-black people, empathy through mentoring. Two, I would say, is to be intentional about learning something new. There's actually, like, for me, I don't know many Chinese people. And then I realized to myself, when I went to China, that not all Chinese people look the same. Not all Chinese people have small eyes. Like, there's certain things that I was oblivious to because I actually didn't pay attention to it. It's only when you go to you get your hands dirty, you get your feet wet, you go into a certain community, and then you're exposed to different things, then you realize, oh wait, there's minor differences between people in this culture, and then you start to become more interested. So I guess, for the corporate world, it's becoming more interested in people that don't look like yourself. So whether it's mentoring, coaching, paying attention to individuals, taking them under your wing, there's many initiatives that I can go on. I'm on a reverse mentoring program where I mentor my CEO or my managing director, one below the CEO, on what does it feel like to be a black colleague at KPMG and what does it feel like to be a junior colleague at KPMG. So with that exposure to the most senior person at KPMG, I was able to get a lot of attention basically, and that wasn't the byproduct of it. I came into it wanting to help him discover what it felt like for me on a day-to-day. The reason why he did it, because he realized that there was not enough senior black role models at KPMG, and he wanted to make a difference, and he had the power to do that. So I became the first mentor-mentee relationship. And two things that he said to me. I asked him the question, what was, after a year into that relationship, we spend, I guess 45 minutes every month speaking about diversity issues, inclusion issues, social equality, etc. I asked him, what was the biggest impact that I made on you? And he said, one, the insights that I gave him about my experiences, what I felt black colleagues felt in their own experiences, because I did loads of interviews, and formal and informal. And then secondly, he said that he found me inspirational, motivational, and he was honored to be part of the program. So when he said that, it made me realize that I've actually got something to say, and I'm not just numbered. I'm actually valued, and that changed a lot of my perception about how I fit in, how to be confident in the workplace, and I felt that I was being heard, and my voice was being heard, and he respected that. So when I knew he was able to change, because he said to me, out of the 20 to 25 years in the industry becoming a business leader, I've never really understood diversity until now. And that was a big moment for me. And I definitely knew, change can happen if you invest time. So that was one program that I continue to do. And following that program, we had a lot of success, whether it's interviewed by BBC, Bloomberg, etc., RBS, PwC, John Lewis. There's loads of different firms that approached me and asked me about the program and started their own programs. And I was able to speak about these reverse mentoring in different countries as well, because of how successful it's been at KPMG, because we rolled it out to the whole UK in terms of our firm in the UK. So that's one initiative. Yeah, so that's an interesting question, because I'm not sure. I don't know. The reason why I say it's interesting, because I don't know if it's linked to race. It's very difficult to prove that. So that's why I can't just say, because I'm black, I'm treated this way. Because another person could say the same and they're not black. So I find it difficult to say, I'm a black person and therefore I've been treated this way, which is not the same as somebody else. But so I can't really answer this. I have to speak in general, unfortunately. And my microaggressions are when, I guess, when you just don't feel respected, or they make you feel like the work that you're doing isn't up to scratch, or isn't as what they thought it would be. And I think that could happen to any type of person. So I don't know if that's linked to race. That's what I mean by how it's hard to prove. I think a lot of the times I would then think it is about race. And then I will self-diagnose and be like, I didn't get that opportunity to be on that project because I'm black, or I didn't get the opportunity to work with this individual who I wanted to work with because I'm black. And, you have to be really careful, because maybe that isn't the case. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But I try to kind of be quite neutral and try to take things not personal, and just keep moving forward. So, I guess the microaggressions can go either way for me. And I try not to relate it to my skin tone, but sometimes you do fall into that trap where you're like, I didn't get that promotion. Is it because they don't really understand me, or do they think I'm not ready for it, or is there this race undertone towards? You just don't know. So no, because I'm on a grad program, so it's actually quite structured in terms of when you get promoted. So you can't actually get promoted quicker or later, etc. So at the moment, I haven't had that situation. Yeah, so not yet because I'm on the grad program and it's all, they tell you how much you get paid basically every year. But I'm finishing my grad program next year. So after that, if you interview me in 2019, maybe I'll have an answer for you then. Yeah. So that one, the appreciation was when my mentee said that he was honored to be part of the program, reverse mentoring, and that really made me feel like, I made me feel almost special in a sense, and almost I've got something that is valuable, and it's useful to him, and it can be useful to other people, and that made me feel appreciated because it came from a senior leader, and we developed a friendship going forward, and it's opened a lot of doors for me, and I've seen the benefit because it's now been rolled out from not just my firm but other firms, and I felt appreciated because I was given a platform to voice my opinions. Yep. So if it's ready to work, after reverse mentoring, I was asked to think of some new ideas, and one of them was I actually went to Colombia for a work conference, and it's where young leaders gather together to talk about big issues in the world. And following that conference, I came back with an idea about entrepreneurs. And I wanted to help my community because whether it's government reports or websites, newspapers, online media, it was always the same story. Black entrepreneurs are always stuck at startup because their lack of funding, lack of net mentoring, lack of networks, etc. And I was like, wait, I work for a firm that has a lot of those expertise, whether it's financial networks, and then I also know quite a few entrepreneurs. So I was like, wait, let me just put those two together to create some sort of program. So I was, I had a few friends who were helping me with the idea and developing a pitch. And then following that, I gave a pitch to my CEO and the managing partner, and he was like, this is a great idea, and he wanted to kind of leverage it. And following the back of that, 6 months later, we launched the Black Entrepreneurs Award. And the award is basically a 12-month program where we support 3 entrepreneurs from a Black heritage background, and then they would get £5,000, mentoring for 12 months, coaching for 12 months, and coaching from a senior leader at KPMG, and access to networking events, etc. And that would be, now we're going to hopefully start doing it. Well, we're not hopefully, but we are going to be doing it for the next 4 more years. And that's a great achievement for the firm as well as for myself, because it was an idea that came literally from my head, and now we're able to support entrepreneurs in their journey, especially at a startup stage, not when they're already made, but more when they actually need the support and funding. So that was a program that went really well, and we just crowned our winners a few weeks ago actually. And they're super excited about this journey and about the networks, and the possibility of growing their business is now way more realistic because they've got a firm that backs them and supports them. A couple of things, but I would focus on probably 2. One is to be actively involved in your community. And that means not saying you're a mentor, but don't mentor, but actually mentoring. So provide your mentors and mentees with experiences, not just words. Because a lot of the time when you do mentoring relationships, you just have a phone, have a quick chat, and that's it. But what I think is the way forward is to say, okay, let me take my mentee, my younger Black brother, younger Black sister or whatever, to my work. Let me take them to Madame Tussauds. Let me take them abroad. Let me take them to certain places that they haven't been before. And they would remember that more than, a few words over the phone. So one would be actively getting mentees from different areas, not just the same area where you live, but a different range. And I would say at least 5. Like I'm trying to do in 2019, 5 mentees. And then secondly, what the black community can do is also be, if you want to be a business leader, because that's where I'm in, is to actually be good at it. So spend time learning about your craft and learning about how to navigate the corporate world, because as a black individual, there's this double consciousness everywhere you go about, am I good enough? Or is it because of race? And it's very difficult to navigate. A lot of people don't really understand. And the person that talks to yourself most is yourself. So if you're constantly saying negative things about yourself, it's very difficult to progress. And so what I would say with the black community is just to support each other. If you want to be the best in your community, the best in your field, you definitely need support around you. So mentoring and being open to ask for help and support, because the last point I was going to make is that we feel this isn't a consensus, but I've seen and it's a personal experience as well that black people don't often ask for help when we need it at times, because we think it's a sign of weakness. We already think we're disadvantaged when we're in a corporate world, for example, because that's the world I'm in, because we're black. If we then ask for help, we then think, it's gonna make us look even worse, because not only are we black, we're also asking for help, and it just looks like we're finding it really difficult. So that's a barrier for black individuals in the corporate world from getting the support that they need. Whereas I know, a white counterpart who would be more than happy to say, I need this and that, whether it's, I need extra time for my exams, I need to reduce my hours and not finish beyond 7 p.m. They're very demanding when it comes to what they want. And that helps them progress quicker. Whereas a black individual might be like, let me not request these things, these extra stuff, because it'll make me look bad, and I'm already disadvantaged. So I would say have conversations with people who can understand, who can support you, and be open about what you need. It was paper round when I was 12, 13. That was my first job where I was making my own money and not receiving money from my parents, and that gave me real independence, because it was only £12, £15 a week, riding my bike every day, delivering papers to almost 30 different houses every day, and it taught me how difficult it is in terms of hard work to make money, but also it taught me how to spend money, because once I made it, I didn't want to just spend it so quickly, because it took me a while to make that £30, and that was a lot of money back in the day. Like, especially when you have EMA as well. On top of that, you're looking nice sometimes. So it was really, at the time, it was like I felt like I was a big man, because I was getting different incomes. But that was the first time I was really like, I have to work hard for money, because it was a time where I had to literally ride my bike to deliver papers, and that taught me the value of money. To save with a purpose. So don't just save for a rainy day, because every day could be a rainy day, and like you need to be purposeful about what your aims are, what your goals are. So if it is to buy a house, if it is to get a new car, if it is to invest, you should spend time understanding how to get there, and not just saving, okay, I'll just save, and then I'll buy. Because, once you save and you're in a position to buy, you might not buy the right house, you might not buy the right car or the best investment at the time, because you actually didn't do any research. So a lot of the times, there's this misconception that you just save and save. But then during that time, you also need to actually plan how to spend. And so there's different routes. You can save, or you can invest. And investing also takes time, understanding the market, understanding what sort of currency you want to invest in, what sort of shares, companies, etc. But also speaking to your friends, family about how to invest. But for me, I think saving has been my kind of key element to financial management, and not spending recklessly and trying to be a bit, reserved in my spending. So like clothes, etc. I pay less attention to, and I travel more, and that gives me exposure to different cultures, etc. And it allows me to develop different skills, and it all kind of comes back to why do I travel? Because I use my money to gain new experiences rather than buy clothes or buy new cars, etc. So because without your net worth is your networks, and everybody knows that, but I don't think enough people really understand the outcomes of it. They understand it as a great cliche, but they don't see the benefits. And it's hard to see the benefits because you don't see how your friend, who then becomes a millionaire 10 years time, will then help you and bless you when you're at that age. So it's playing the long game. A lot of us tend to be short-term focused, and we don't build enough now to basically reap in the future. For me, networks has been a blessing for me. I've been able to be in different types of networks, and they offer me different things. And for example, like just last week, I was at a men's breakfast, and they spoke about 3 topics that I've never really been exposed to in that detail. 3 topics. One of them was knife crime, which they had 3 individuals who spoke about that they were stabbed 5 times, 7 times, and another person 5 times as well. And they obviously didn't die, and they spoke about the experiences and how it transformed their life. And I've never really spoken to somebody in that sort of detail and who was also open to share that. So there was a lot of learnings for me in that aspect. The second one was infertility. So there was a guy who came and spoke about his it being infertile, and how that, from a man's perspective, and how that impacted his relationship with his wife. And then he had to adopt. And then the whole process of trying to find a son or daughter to adopt, and understanding the feelings of how can I call my son, a son when he has a different father, and he's not my kid. So he was going through periods of uncertainty, and I guess it was difficult to understand the feelings when you're actually adopting somebody else's child. And then there's a whole, I guess, like feeling that you wanted to have your own son, your own daughter, and then the complexities of the relationship, like feeling that if it was you that had the problems rather than the wife, you're like, babes, it might be difficult, but maybe you should go to someone else because they would give you a son or a daughter, and you don't deserve me, etc. And like, he was battling through a lot of self-doubt. And I've never really been exposed to that level of understanding, especially around infertility. And then the third one was about mentoring and being very, I guess, open and honest with your mentor-mentee relationships, and taking the time out to provide experiences, as I spoke about earlier. So, well, yes and no. Like, yes, I want to be as big as Martin Luther King or Malcolm X. Like, that is like a dream, and that's a vision. But essentially, I've learned that, I don't know what life's going to look like for me next year, the year after. But what I do know is that I'm on a route where I'm going to be somebody great, but just not sure how it would look like. I've got a passion for social mobility, providing access to young people for opportunities. I do want to give back, but also want to be a business leader. So I know it's going to be about business and about social mobility. But what I don't know is how will it look like. And I think that's okay. So I'm not going to come and talk to you to say, I'm going to have my own company, I'm going to invest in hundreds of businesses, and I'm going to be wealthy, etc. I'm not going to say that. But what I do hope is that I got trust in the process, that eventually I will have a life that I wanted because of the steps that I've taken day to day, and trusting that I'm going to go somewhere that's going to have an impact on individuals, because I'm currently doing that at the moment. So if I just stay in this path, then that's fine. So yeah, it's about social mobility and the business world, becoming a business leader.